I just got done watching the Assassin's Creed Shadows reveal trailer, and I wanted to just give you my initial impressions. There's a lot of YouTubers who are going to give you like an in-depth breakdown of every frame, but I just want to give you my perspective from an old school fan and what I think of this trailer and what I think that we're going to get from Assassin's Creed Shadows. Obviously, you have to understand that this was a CGI trailer, so it's not really representative of the game that we're going to get. But to me, the trailer was divided into two sections. The first section was basically giving you the story setup, the premise, and the introduction to the characters. And then towards the end, we kind of got a little glimpse at the gameplay that we can expect from this trailer. So let's divide it first into two. The first half of the trailer begins in a typical Assassin's Creed way, with our main character, Assassin, chasing some sort of generic Templar down some sort of street or forest, and facing them down and giving them that sense of fear. And then we see a smoke transition that goes directly into the backstory of our first character, Naoe, I think she's called. She's basically going to be the stealth-focused character according to all the leaks, and the whole trailer kind of corroborates this, and we see her backstory. And this is, Assassin's Creed backstory 101. Everything she loves and her family's burnt down by the Templars, or the army that the Templar kind of controls. And we see her do something really cool, which is try and defend her and her tribe while still being beat down, which I like seeing in characters. I like seeing when they're not immediately insanely good at everything and beat all the characters. So seeing her beat down and seeing how when she's kind of like on the ground, you have the character transition into our second character, who's the samurai called Yasuke, I think he's called. So it kind of switches into this introduction of the dual narrative perspective, which was confirmed by the leaks quite a long time ago, so this is not a surprise. And you kind of see his backstory and where he's coming from, and it also kind of gives some insight into the historical perspective of where we are in a feudal Japan era. I think this character is based off of a historical figure who was also a black samurai at the time. And we can see basically how he's probably just been inducted into the army. He's following orders, and eventually he decides to rebel against the army because of his moral conscience and joins Naoe. The combat sequences are pretty cool in this section, and it kind of gives the confirmation that we all had, which was that Ubisoft Quebec is making an RPG game. This is not going to be an Assassin's Creed Mirage that's focused only on stealth and is having kind of like a closed environment. If you look at this trailer, even though it's just CGI, and we can talk about that later, it kind of confirms this is going to be a very large, vast open world where there's mainly going to be countryside and small towns and kind of like large restricted areas, because we barely see any sort of cities or architecture within this trailer. There are a few flashbacks here and there to Naoe and Yasuke kind of walking around towns, but again, there's not a lot of architecture, not a lot of places to parkour, and maybe this is reviewed later in the reveal cycle or the marketing cycle where we can see some parkour in some real cities, but right now this seems much more akin to Valhalla and Odyssey rather than maybe Assassin's Creed Unity or Mirage. Now, the second part of the trailer is what I really enjoy, which is cutting into some sort of gameplay teasing where they're both infiltrating this huge monastery or temple. First of all, we see Naoe just fucking rip a bunch of guards into pieces by using a bunch of throwing knives, hidden blade, and her sword. First of all, not a lot of stealth here. As a stealth player and as someone who wants Assassin's Creed to be stealth-focused, even though this character is kind of marketed as being stealth-focused, she doesn't really do a lot of stealth. She gets detected immediately and kind of just goes into ninja combat, and that transitions perfectly into Yasuke doing a bunch of brutal combat with heavy weapons. What is teased here in terms of gameplay, and I have to speculate because it's CGI, is that we are going to have this grappling hook that helps us ascend these tall walls, and we are going to have lots of different weapon varieties as teased by Yasuke. I think that if we can use Hidden Blade in combat, it's going to be insane, and I would love that to return, but I don't think that right now we have real confirmation that we can use Hidden Blade in combat. When the target is assassinated at the end of the trailer, we see that Yasuke has a very interesting Hidden Blade, basically the same one that Connor has in Assassin's Creed 3, which turns into a dagger, so you can use it in different ways and basically opens up the type of kills that you can make. Overall, the CGI trailer is pretty much what I expected from Assassin's Creed and from Ubisoft. Ubisoft is very, very good at generating hype, and I am, for one, extremely hyped and interested in this game. The thing that I have to say is that until June 10th, which is when Ubisoft Forward takes place, we haven't really seen any gameplay, and we haven't seen anything from this trailer that gives us a real perspective of what the graphics look like, what the gameplay looks like, or anything in between. I also haven't seen a lot of information about stealth or parkour that makes me think this is going to be a traditional, or at least, true Assassin's Creed game. Right now, what I'm getting is there's going to be a Ghost of Tsushima competitor where there's going to be decent stealth, but it's mainly going to focus on combat, exploration through vast open landscapes, and not a lot of architecture or verticality in our maps, which is not inherently bad because, again, Assassin's Creed Origins is one of my favorite games of all time, and it doesn't have that. But it therefore has to have a lot of the mystique and a lot of the attention to detail and understanding of the underlying Assassin's Creed mythos to still feel like an Assassin's Creed game. This is coming from an old school fan's perspective. Again, a bunch of people are probably going to be in love with this and not be alarmed that there's no real parkour or stealth in this trailer. But I personally want to see more of what stealth looks like with Naoe, what combat looks like with Yasuke, see if we can have combat with the hidden blade, see if there's any real parkour, see if there's any, real depth to the stealth system like the leaks have suggested. But overall, as a CGI trailer goes, it's great. I wouldn't rank it at the top of Assassin's Creed CGI trailers, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means Assassin's Creed is kind of like infamous for how good their CGI trailers are. The highlight moments for me in the trailer are probably the fact that we are focusing on two characters that seem to have very specific narratives, which gives me confidence that even if there are going to be dialogue choices, we're not going to be basically creating our own character from scratch, and that we're not going to be able to choose our character and change their gender with no real lore reason. I like that these are two specific and independent characters that have independent backstories. I also think that the combat is going to be great. It seems like the graphics are going to be great and the world is going to be extremely interesting to explore. This is also one of my favorite historical time periods, so I'm also excited about that, which always influences the hype for an Assassin's Creed game. But right now, this seems like a Valhalla-esque CGI trailer where we're basically getting hinted at that this is going to be like Valhalla in terms of scope, in terms of scale, in terms of style of game. And I hope that that's not true. That's not to say that I'm not excited for this game, but rather that I want to see gameplay to see what the tone and the atmosphere of this game really is. Because you cannot, really tell from a CGI trailer. It's beautiful, it's great, and I think the story is probably the thing that intrigues me the most. The gameplay, again, until we see actual gameplay, I'm just kind of making guesses at what we can do from the stealth infiltration section we saw at the end. But I think what's really interesting is the story. I think that a dual narrative perspective, especially with one character that starts off on the Templar side, is something that's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of like forgive each other, especially Naoe forgiving Yasuke for what he's done. I also am very curious as to what role the assassins play in this story, because assassins aren't really mentioned outright, and we don't see any Templar iconography, which are the two things that are usual in Assassin's Creed trailers, especially old school Assassin's Creed trailers. We usually see some sort of Templar iconography and a hint towards the assassins. The only hint we have is at the end. I think they say something like, "We are the shadows that serve the light," which is kind of like an interpolation of the, we work in the shadows to serve the light Assassin's Creed motto. So that's kind of like a hint at the fact that they are assassins, but we kind of need straight confirmation that they do join the order, especially because at this time in history, the Assassin's Creed is kind of like the official name of the orders, no longer the hidden ones, which has been a long time coming. We haven't had that since 2015, I think. So, it's been almost 10 years since we've been real assassins, so it'd be really cool to see what that looks like and what role they play. So overall, those are my thoughts. I'd love to know what your thoughts are, because this is extremely new for all of us, and maybe I'm just kind of being overly cynical, but I think it's been a very good reveal trailer, a very interesting first look at Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's basically kind of what I expected from Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed, and I'm very, very intrigued to see what they do. The fact that she has a hidden blade is awesome. I haven't seen a foot blade, and I haven't seen a second hidden blade, so I'm also interested to see how different the gameplay is going to be from the other Assassin's Creed games, especially Valhalla and everything like that. But anyways, let me know what you think, because I'm really interested, and let's have a conversation in the comments to see how hyped we are and how excited we are for Ubisoft Forward, where we're probably going to see some gameplay for the first time.